Hey, Quants. This will be a fairly quick one, I believe. I'm going to start off with just doing a very brief overview on the market. There's not a whole lot going on. I think we're kind of waiting for some more important things to happen, such as the more important economic events to happen, such as the interest rate decision coming up next week. So let's take a quick look at the market. I do have the economic calendar up right now, and I believe in my last video I didn't have my face because in the off the grid video that I was doing, I didn't have my face and I just forgot to turn it on. So last video, that's the way it ended up. Oh well. Let's see here. So looking at the economic calendar, as I mentioned, nothing. There's the JOLTS reports coming up this week, but looks like that already hit yesterday. And so today we have, looks like some discussions going on. December 10th, interest rate decision. Is that happening today? Tomorrow. So I was thinking that was actually going to happen next week. So we have, so we have the inflation, core inflation in that coming up next week. So looks like we will have an interest rate decision tomorrow. So that could be interesting, and that could be a catalyst for sending markets in a different direction. So as I mentioned, not a lot to go over today. Things are still looking pretty much as I had saw them yesterday. Just floating in the middle right now. So I'm not going to provide too much commentary on here. What I do want to do is I'm just going to kind of go through some other markets, which isn't something, at least on the YouTube videos, that I have done yet. And the whole point of me doing this is I want to just show you one of the ways that I like to use this master strategy in terms of identifying markets that I might be interested in quickly. And so the point about that is, because I tend to be long biased, I would look at things and say, okay, is this looking like a position that I would want to go long in or short in? And from a macro trend perspective, because things are down on Bitcoin, you can still play those in a counter trend move if that's how you'd like to play it, or you can use it to go short. But I'm just going to go run through a few markets and basically just say, this looks good for investment, this looks bad for investment, and maybe point out some other things. So real quick, running through Ethereum. So first things first, the 8 and 21 are down, so short-term bearish. We have the SMA slope still green here, so that's the only thing looking bullish. We had a cross of the 200s here, so that's bearish, and we have the EMA looking with the slope down, so that is bearish. In a counter trend rally, however, we are looking like we might get if the price continues to move up or stay this way, and it doesn't stay choppy, of course, then we could have an opportunity here for a bullish play for a short-term scalp. So not even looking at the oscillators here, something I would want to look for is some bullish divergences if I was looking on the short term. But again, just going to try and keep this quick so I can go over a few markets. Here, let's take a look real quick at Link. Looking fairly similar to Ethereum in the sense that we're about to get that 821 cross, so maybe good for a short-term play. However, we do have every other signal here looking bearish, and to be fair, the 821 is currently bearish. But if you wanted to play a counter trend play, rally play, that looks like it might be setting up. So next, I want to jump to. I'm just going to jump straight over to the gold. And the reason I want to jump over to gold is because I had some patterns drawn out from previously, and so one thing that I really like to play in terms of patterns is these ascending triangles. So these are something that Gann has talked about quite a bit, and so this is essentially like the Mexican Pete pattern that he has outlined in some of his books. And so you have this ascending triangle, and when you get a break of that ascending triangle, oftentimes you see strong continuation. And the way you can play this is if you get that break, go ahead and take an entry, and then if it drops back in, you just exit that position, right? So we can see that worked out in gold. The reason I'm mentioning that is because this does not look like it's matured just yet. However, there is the potential for an ascending triangle right here to be developing. And so after such a strong rally, people were calling for either a consolidation or a reversal of gold. And so right now it looks like this is probably playing out a consolidation. And so if this breaks up around this line up here, throw on a quick line here. So if it kind of, that's not how I want to do that. I'm just going to roughly a line similar to here. If we get some closes above this line right here, then this is going to look like we might have an opportunity to get more bullish action on gold. So the next one in the context of metals is silver. So, I didn't touch on I was talking about Gann and I didn't even touch on the master strategy here. So master strategy is looking all good. Here we have both positive sloping on the 200s. We have the 200 EMA over the SMA. We have the 8 and 21, both bullish. And so, of course, there was some chop here in this in the past before we saw this most recent breakout. And so if these choppy markets, as I mentioned in the past, with these trend strategies can be hard to play. And so this would have been a really nice opportunity to kind of utilize some of the Gann methods and also utilize this master strategy kind of in conjunction with each other. And so going back to silver. So silver, obviously another strong one. Everything's bullish here. So same kind of idea here. If you do play the 821s in the short term, you do tend to get chopped up if the market starts ranging. But in this case, we did see a breakout. Well, essentially, I'm only going to go so far back, right? Because some people only recently started paying attention to silver. And so my point is there's a little bit of chop here, but eventually you would have got into a position that would have ran for quite a long time, right? And so, again, similar to gold, everything's bullish here. Even if you would have just played the 821s here, you would have gotten out, but you would have gotten back in at what would have looked like a fairly poor position after this cross happened. So you would have been buying in close over here, and you would have been sitting on that for a little while before your position ultimately started going positive again. So again, as I mentioned with gold, there are opportunities to utilize other things to get in a little bit sooner or later, but just pointing out here that this is still looking bullish for the master strategy. Let's take a look at NVIDIA. So bearish on the 821s. It looks like this one is looking like it might potentially get a close. These are still too far apart to really have some strong opinions about that. The Gann Swing strategy is down. If you're using the 2-bar, if you're using the 1-bar, it's currently up. The 821s are good. So in a macro trend, still bullish on this. So this is one I would be looking for long term, or I'd be looking for more continuation to the upside based on the 200s being sloped up and the 200 EMA being over the 200 SMA. So these, so this looks like probably some consolidation here. Master or MicroStrategy is bearish, right? So we had the 821 cross down, and this is one of the things, just to use this as an illustrative point, actually Bitcoin looks quite similar to this as well. Getting chopped up with these 821s really sucks, but what is awesome about these is when you actually play that and you get out, and then it just totally tanks like this. I mean, if you would have followed this, you would have gotten out. I'm just going to use this as the close. That's when the cross would have happened. So using the open on this bar, you would have been out at about 405. And so now we're sitting at 182. That would have been an amazing place to get out if you had been in MicroStrategy. And so that's kind of the trade-off that you end up dealing with if you're trying to utilize just the 821s. Yeah, there's a lot of times when you can get chopped up. And so you don't really know when this trend is just going to this trend is just going to go straight for continuation in one direction or the other. And so that's where utilizing some other layers can potentially help. But this one honestly could have been quite challenging. The only indicator on the macro time frames would have been utilizing these two without actually switching timeframes and just using price, but using the master strategy would have been to use the fact that the 200 EMA crossed below the 200 SMA. But even back here, they were, these were still sloping up. They were starting to diverge in terms of distance, and so that might have given you a clue that, hey, you're getting farther apart, so it looks like it's starting to take a little more hold. But yeah, again, if you were just solidly playing the 821s, then you would have gotten it at a poor price here and then out at a poor price, so you would have given up some there as well, but then you would have also been able to avoid all this down price. So let's see, just picking a few more. There's another one that I wanted to go to. So looking here at Microsoft. So Microsoft's still looking bullish on the macro with both of these sloping up. It looks like the 200's struggling a little bit, but that's going to happen when you have these long consolidation periods. The 821 looks like they could be getting ready to cross again, but right now that is currently bearish. So again, one thing that I started utilizing, I found Gann stuff after I found this master strategy. And so the one thing that I was not exactly excited about with the 821 is that there was so many opportunities where you would just get chopped up because you don't exactly know if you're trending up, trending down, or if it's just going to go choppy. And if it's in a sideways market, you're just going to get chopped to bits with a strategy like this. And so one thing that I started playing with when I first was digging into Gann stuff was layering in the Gann Swing indicator instead of using the 821. And so oftentimes they're going to be fairly close to each other where these crosses happen, and also where you would potentially get in and out of the if you're just using the Gann Swing indicator. But the point that I want to make here is right now, if you're on the 2-bar using the 2-bar swing indicator, we're going to have a price here at 493-ish. And so if we get a break above there, that would be a potential area where you'd want to make a buy, and that would likely, based on the distance that these are from each other, would be an earlier entry signal than waiting for the 821 cross. And so you could use layers, right? So you might have 3 or 4 different positions. So if you take a position there and then you get that 821 cross, so you want to get another position there. That might be one way to play this strategy. But my point about this is, looking at this, macro time frames still look bullish. It looks like this has been some consolidation. And so I personally would be expecting some more upside with this. And if I was going to take a position, take a position after, at this point in time, I'd be waiting for one of those signals to give me a little bit of a clue. Another clue, and I've kind of mentioned this before, was actually buying at the 200. So that would have been almost a perfect buy here if you would have got this 200 SMA and buying at the 200 EMA as well. So if you would have got here, those would have been 2 good points that you could have also potentially scaled into a position. So going back to what I want to mention is VTI. So the reason I like to look at VTI is because it is basically a total stock market index fund of the top 500 stocks. I believe it's the top 500 stocks. And so it's fairly similar to looking at like SPX or something like that, but or SPY. But the reason that I like you looking at this is because this is something that people can actually go and buy. There's a lot of, you can't just go buy the SPY somewhere, right? That is a replication of what people are trying to create when they create these index funds, right? So I like to look at these sometimes just to get an idea of, what at an asset that's similar to SPY, but that people would actually potentially be buying through Vanguard, for example. So this one is looking bullish. These are getting farther apart. So this is looking pretty bullish in my opinion. Again, just like with everything, you can get mean reverting as well. So it's not like just because these get farther away, they're going to forever get farther away. But you have your 821 crosses. These are these are both green. And so we have the 200s both sloping up at this point, and that 200 EMA is above the SMA, so just full on bullish here. Next, moving down to, let's go ahead and take a look at the SPY. And again, the reason I'm looking at this because I want to just, say, hey, yeah, this is basically the exact same thing as the VTI. So everything is looking full on bullish here. So from the Gann Swing indicator, it looks like the trend started to break down a little bit. And so this goes back to my point. Like if you want to use that versus the 821, that is a pretty viable option that I found. And so in that case, we'd actually be waiting for the trend to reverse here. So for that to happen, you'd be waiting for a little bit of time. So you could have just played the break of the last pivot high here. So that would have been a potential entry if you're using that. However, keep in mind, if you're using the 2-bar, the trend is down, and for this to turn up, we're going to need to see a lower high and a higher high since we had already set in a downtrend at this point right here, and now we're waiting to see if that trend reverses, and currently it's an indeterminate trend since we broke this downtrend. So I'm going to leave it there for today. I think this ended up turning out to be a little bit longer than I had originally planned, but I just wanted to burn through a few assets just to kind of go over the master strategy a little bit and show you how I utilize it. So hope everyone is well. Peace out. Peace, quants.